there's all this new technology, there's all this worry about what that does to populations, how you have to retrain people, what are all the jobs going to disappear? You guys are in charge, whether you like it or not. What are you going to do about this? Let's get some short statements from each of you, and then you can talk about among with each other for our half hour here.
Our job right now is actually to provide technology that makes life more secure and convenient for people in the transaction world. But at the same time, as a company, we recognize that
I have 3 kids.
If we exist on the wrong side of society in a multipolar world, we're toast. And so, we're continuously battling with those questions. I mean, so internally, we focus a lot on technology to bring solutions to people. Whether it's AI or IoT or blockchain, all of the themes here. And we focus on making sure that our employees bring decency to what they do, the way they think. We spend time bringing the right people into the companies, but the focus that we have is trying to prepare society for the next phase that we're going to go through. Doing it through areas as a company that we can influence. The place where we can most influence is financial inclusion. There's 2 billion people out there that are living in a cash society, don't have access to general services, etc. So we spend a lot of our time focusing on financial inclusion. We said in 2015 we're going to bring 500 million people into financial inclusion, which we've done.
Yeah.
And just that process brings technology to them, it brings convenience and security, and includes them. So that's the first step.
You're focused on sort of bringing the world up to speed, and I know that you just put out an identity system in Kenya, which I think is amazing, and we're going to hear about protecting small businesses around the world in a little bit. Judy, what are your thoughts about this?
I'm the former Foreign Minister of Australia.
Sorry.
And currently the Chancellor of Australian National University. So I'm acutely aware of the unprecedented change that we're experiencing around the world, whether it's shifts in great power balances, whether it's rising inequality and populism, nationalism, protectionism, diminishing support for the international rules-based order from some very unexpected quarters. But I think the greatest change is the advent of the fourth industrial revolution and what that means for the future of jobs. The greatest change, they say, is still to come in terms of increased computer connectivity and AI and robotics and quantum computing even. So as a Chancellor of a university, I'm worried about whether our students are going to have the skills required for the jobs of the future, however the business models and operations.
That's super.
Yeah.
So,
now the question is, what is our augmentation strategy? How are we all going to augment our workforce by retraining, reskilling, re-educating, rather than replacing them with technology, robotics and the like, but supporting them so that they do have the skills? And the millennial generation are not driven by the same aspirations as previous generations. Right. They want to make a difference to the world. They want to make the world a better place, and they judge very harshly those employers that they perceive are not committed to that.
So this is that's almost an advertisement for the relationship we have with South Australia, where those are exactly the questions that the Premier there comes up with. And so what we've done is we're beginning this technology analysis to ask, what sort of training can you do to make people more resilient in these new worlds? And I think that's an enormously productive area. That's great. How about you? So you're worldwide. People don't often know what you do, but you actually make most of the communications of the world work. So you've got employees all over the world in a very quickly changing area. What's your thought on the matter?
Well, I think there's an overlap with regard to what Rick and Judy have said. The most important thing for us is because we operate networks in about 180 countries in the world, so we see a lot of things happening on the network, and we see that all this technology that was referred to can do a lot of good in the world, and I think this is technology that we can truly make use of to make our society more efficient and all stakeholders happy. But the most important thing that we focus on to make this happen is to enable people to trust the technology. In order to do that, you need to look at cybersecurity. So you need to make sure that whenever this technology is used, it's secure, it's being enabled for everybody, not only the happy few. We look at it, by the way, and I love the way you said augment, because we look at it more like Iron Man than we look at it as Terminator. So we look at this new technology augmenting what humans do today, rather than the scary few that think that everything's going to be a robot in the future and think on behalf of us.
I like that. We should get Iron Man and the Terminator up there. It's sort
Exactly.
of X through the Terminator.
And I think the second thing I would say is that we also play, and this is exactly what Judy said as well, I think in order for us not to create a gap between the haves and the have-nots, and also the people that use this technology and don't, we need to educate people a lot better. And we have a huge program running, it's called Digital Skills, to educate young people up to older people on how to use the internet, what is safe, what is not safe, how to use digital technology in a safe way, so that we can create awareness of how we can use this technology for good, but at the same time also what we need to watch out for.
So when I started, I worked with BT historically a lot. When I started, a lot of the people who were in BT started working for BT when they were 12 years old.
Yeah.
Because they had this apprenticeship program that they took you through high school and college, and then you had a job. And I think you ought to bring that back, particularly in a lot of parts of the world where the educational system's not so good.
Yeah.
I think it's about creating a positive impact, and there is a greater realization that artificial intelligence is for real. And I think in TCS, what we are doing is really about identifying the creative part of what you are doing and the repetitive part of what you are doing. There is clearly a thinking that design and empathy are for the humans. Rest all can be algorithms. So if I come and automate your job, you are unhappy. But if you can figure out the creative part of your work and the repetitive part of your work, and if we can help you learn the skills by which you can automate the repetitive part of your work, that makes you a better person and you feel good about it, and overall you create a better quality of life.
I think that's a really important thing is that there are a lot of parts of jobs that are not so fun, and that can release you to the more creative things. But of course you have to have business models and opportunities where that more creative part can really get traction. So it sounds like retraining is a big part of all of your vision, and protecting and bringing in other parts of the economy, people who aren't actually part of the global system, one of the main foci. Is that
It is, and I guess two aspects of that. One is, when you go into the tech world, there is still like a horrendous gender imbalance. So actually really working hard on programs to bring girls and women into
That's true,
which
yeah.
is something
Certainly
that
the gender imbalance, yeah.
I think the other thing is that is coming through in a lot of technologies is that the one thing they do is they make collaboration so much easier. Co-creation, collaboration. And so it's not actually hard to bring in disparate groups, not really train them, but involve them. And you're involving them by training through involvement, and see that far more. That's where I think these augmenting technologies are very helpful in that respect.
That's going to be the word of the conference, augment, isn't it? I think the World Economic Forum Future of Jobs report of 2018 puts it all in perspective. This was a survey of 300 major companies across 20 countries, and they asked them about the technologies that were going to disrupt their business in the next 4 years. And there was virtual unanimity about high-speed mobile internet, cloud-based technologies, big data and AI. 50% of those companies said that they would be shedding jobs over the next 4 years. About 40% said they'd be taking on more people because technology would augment productivity. 25% said that there were going to be new jobs that just don't exist in the next 4 years. but virtually every company said they will have to retrain, reskill, upskill, re-educate their workforce. And it concluded that this will have to be a partnership. It's government and business, the private sector, NGOs, everyone will have to be involved in what will be a massive disruption to the way we see training and education and being job ready. And I come back to the millennials, the future employees, the future consumers, the future leaders. And they are going to expect very different outcomes from their job. They're not committed to job security, one job for life. They're not committed to financial security. They're committed to making the world a better place. So we're going to have to combine their aspirations, what inspires them, whether it's a carbon-free world, whether it's a world free of forced labour in supply chains, whether it's companies that pay their taxes, whatever it is, their global view is what they will base their decisions on.
Well, as somebody who's in the educational industry at MIT and has a couple of millennial children, I can tell you that the university system has a long way to go to be able to do what they should do. We need to really redo that. So if we can work together on that, I'm super good. How about you? Do you have some?
No, I agree. I would say also that this is not a very, it is disruptive technology, but it won't all come at once. So it's a gradual move of how technology is being used and also how it will replace jobs. I mean, we did a study and 5% of the jobs we think can actually be automated 100%. But more than 60% of the jobs can be automated roughly 30%. And I think over time, people get more and more educated about the fact which parts of the jobs are the ones that you can automate and therefore, like we said before, augment people's effectiveness. I do think that there is a task for us to make sure that we not only educate, I mean, we clearly need to educate the people, as you said, Sandy, from high school age and from early on, and we have a program called Barefoot, which basically also teaches teachers on how to teach cybersecurity skills and how children should be online. But I also think that this is an age where change is going so fast that we need to make sure that we continuously teach people up to,
right.
their later life. I learn things every single day, and I think there's many people that have to do that every single day in order to be effective in this economy. Otherwise, you will be obsolete very quickly. It doesn't matter if you're 25 or 65.
Absolutely, yeah. So, Ajay, you want to?
I think let's step back and probably share with you what I'm seeing amongst our client base across the globe. Right? Firstly, I think everybody is looking at a workplace and workforce transformation as a part of their own organizational transformation and skill building. I think enterprise agile and moving towards a collaborative, open work culture is something that I see across the globe. The second one is there is a greater realization that innovation is surpassing productivity. So there is a clear move to integrate partners and build open technologies by which you are able to coexist and interoperate. Right? And I think that is really taking off, by which the efficiency gains and the growth gains are a factor of multiples rather than a percentage. Right? That's the second thing. Third thing is that there is another realization that customers are going after a purpose. I, as a customer, am interested in travel, interested in wealth, interested in charity, interested in wildlife. So there is a clear move from, let's say, how do I move towards a purpose-centric structure from a product-centric structure? So a lot of horizontal collaboration as opposed to vertical integration.
That's a really interesting thing, is that there's these structural things that have to happen in the way we think about companies and enterprises and the way we design systems to be able to support all of this, just like the universities need to be blown up and that sort of thing. So we're very short on time, but if you guys want to have one sort of final comments about things, take a couple minutes. And
I think your last point about companies are going to be blown up, the whole reason for the existence of large enterprises is rapidly disappearing.
Yes.
And
yes.
technology is driving that. And so to think through the future of the organization first and then the future of work is probably the right order.
No, I mean, one of the things that all these new technologies do is they reduce coordination costs, transaction costs, and then, of course, that's why you have a company. So why not actually make it a much more sort of fluid, diverse thing, which is just completely reimagining what it means to be a company.
I want to introduce the notion of the tension between unconditional and conditional leadership, not only in governments but in companies and business. I think future generations are going to expect and be inspired by greater examples of unconditional leadership. That is, the decisions taken have a benefit beyond just the immediate interest of the company or government. And in fact, the benefits spread beyond that interest across a whole community or indeed across the planet. Conditional leadership is what we're used to, where the decisions taken benefit your immediate community, your shareholders alike. But I think the next generation of leaders are going to be inspired by examples of unconditional leadership where companies are required to make decisions to benefit a much broader cross-section of the community.
I find that really, really deep and interesting, because what you see, a lot of the squabbles we have around politics, around this, are sort of tactical battles. But what's missing is the vision for the future for a better world. If we could keep our eyes on the prize, as it were, we could begin moving, and a lot of the sort of today's squabbles would naturally begin to take care of themselves.
The desire for more examples of unconditional leadership exists not only amongst voters, but also future leaders.
That's great. That's great. I like that. Okay, good. Boss.
Yeah, just reiterating a little bit what was said before. I do think if we want to make sure that we use this technology for good, if we want to make sure that we collectively in the world accelerate what this technology can do for us, I think we need to work together a lot more. So companies need to work together, share information. Technology companies, I think, need to open the kimono, like we do, for example, with a lot of the cybersecurity information that we have. We need to share it with everybody, because the only way we're going to allow this technology to be there for good is if we make sure that those few that are there to use it for bad are going to be stopped, and we need to make sure that all the people that want to use it can use it in the way that is translating it for good.
So I'm going to be a little sort of forward here. The four people here are ideal partners for doing this, because your business depends on cybersecurity and reaching out to protect small businesses and consumers. Your business also, you're training the people that are going to run this, and you're going to actually build this stuff. So we got the right panel for that one. Go ahead, Angie, you want to wrap it up?
I think I'll just say enable lifelong learning and be meaningful to people unconditionally.
Yeah, okay, so that's echoing her message. So that's a really, I think, important thing that coming from MIT, we tend not to put things in that frame, but I think we're going to change. So thank you for that. And let's give a hand for the leaders who have actually said, I think, really unconditional leadership here. Okay, this is good. We're on the right roll.